Oh, it's going good. My wife went back to work this week, and none of the kids are back in school or daycare. Yeah, I got a 3 month old and two daughters, 8 and 4. So they're pretty good about going around to the gym with me and stuff like that, though.
Do you like it when they tag along with you and start to learn and kind of take in all the things that you are able to do on a daily basis?
Yeah, I like it. I mean, sometimes it could be a little bit depending on how everybody's doing. The other day was the first day that the baby went, and he did good. But I do like it. I like them seeing me train and hopefully picking up some, not only just like you know some skills, but just the life lessons that if they see their dad working hard towards something, like hopefully some of that rubs off on them.
Yeah, I mean, even just like wrestling, looking around at people that are just working and getting better. I mean, it builds discipline in the kids. It builds like courage. It builds strength. All of the good stuff. So, definitely a good thing bringing them with you. I wanted to ask about the four minute finish in your last fight because some people were obviously saying that it could be a really fast finish. Others were saying it could be like a 3 round type of war type of a thing. What was your thoughts going into that fight? Were you expecting it to go early, or were you like totally prepared for it to go the full 3 rounds?
No, I mean I was prepared for 3 rounds. Brian's a tough guy. He's had some great performances in the UFC. I anticipated, or I didn't anticipate necessarily, but um, I was ready to go a full 3 rounds if I needed to. Obviously, I prefer to get out of there as soon as possible, and so I was happy to do that, and happy to not be have any injuries or anything like that. So I had a family vacation planned the next day. I was leaving for that, and I was a little bit worried I was going to be beat up the whole time, but so it was nice to be healthy and get to enjoy some downtime with my family afterwards, and not be limping around and stuff like that.
What would you say would be like better for you, like not taking the damage and things like that? Like, would you rather maybe have like a close decision that goes all the way, but you are maybe able to win like a 50 grand, a fight of the night bonus, or would you rather maybe not get the bonus and just get an early finish or something like that?
Nah, I think I'd take the bonus over anything. I was a little disappointed because there was like 5 fights before mine, and they were all
Yeah.
like kind of boring decisions. And and then after my fight, I was like, well, dang, I think there's a pretty good possibility I get a bonus. And then it's like every fight after mine was a knockout finish, and
Yeah.
then I was like, this. So there ended up being 6 finishes, and 4 of the 6 fighters that got finishes got bonuses. So it's a little bit frustrating because it's like I don't know the rhyme or reason why things are decided, or how
Yeah.
they're decided. Um, but we'll see. Yeah, maybe they'll. Sometimes the UFC they send out these extra checks and stuff like that. So maybe they'll shoot me a little more since I didn't get the bonus. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean it was really kind of incredible how like you kind of switched the momentum of that entire card because like you said, decision, decision, decision. You get a round one finish, and literally everyone after you just started to pick up finishes throughout the rest of the card. I mean, I've never seen like a card go so kind of like slow and a little bit boring to just picked up right away right after that.
Yeah, I'll take the credit for it, but I have a feeling it would have probably it probably would have happened either way. But yeah, it wasn't so great from my perspective watching after my fight. I was like, oh, there was another knockout. Oh, there's another knockout,
Yeah.
and every single one you're like, oh, the chances I get the bonus drop every time. So I was hoping for some more boring decisions. I'm sure the fans are happy that things picked up though.
Yeah, I mean, like right after the fight was over, did you think? Because obviously, when you had fought, it had only been decisions. So at that exact moment when you got the finish, you got your hand raised, and you were walking out of the cage, did you think at that moment you were going to be able to get that bonus? Because I mean, you couldn't have predicted the rest of the card.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I don't. I do remember having a thought when I was after the fight in the back or whatever. Like, hey, I'm like the middle of the card, and there's been all
Yeah.
decisions. And so yeah, that crossed my mind. And then, like I said, every fight after that just seemed to be a finish. So then I started thinking, oh, I don't know, it's up in the air. And so yeah, I'm always shooting for a bonus. So yeah, that's where a lot of us are gonna make our money is in getting multiple performance bonuses. And so that's always, other than winning, that's always priority number one, or priority number two, I should say. Winning's priority number one, but right underneath it is going for it. I think that's what the bonuses are supposed to incentivize, is taking risk and uh, not trying to cruise to decisions, but trying to finish people and keep the crowd entertained.
And I wanted to definitely bring this up because every single time you've gotten a win, whether it's in the actual UFC octagon or whether it was inside of the Ultimate Fighter house, you've gotten a finish in every single one of those fights. So you're one of the more exciting guys in this division for sure. I wanted to ask about the Ultimate Fighter fights you did win because they were both really fast and kind of seemingly easy finishes for you to obtain. Was there any like bonus scenario for the Ultimate Fighter? Because it wasn't really like a professional like station fight. It was more of like an exhibition.
Yeah, we weren't really sure. I remember we signed a really big contract in a short amount of time. Like, hey, we need these things signed because we're about to start shooting production, and
Yeah.
so it's not like we had a ton of time to comb through it. There was discussion about from other fighters on the show who had teammates in the past who had been on the show, who said like, oh, they give out bonuses for finishes or bonuses for wins. So we were really unsure. But then when it was all said and done, like, um, we have a group chat, the guys on the show. We still occasionally keep each other informed on what's going on with us and stuff. And people started saying, like, once the checks started coming in, yeah, that's how it works essentially. Like, if you're getting finishes, you're getting wins, and you're getting just little bumps in the check you get at the end of the whole thing. So we weren't 100% sure at the time of the filming of the show, but there were like rumors and discussions about like, oh, we think this is how it works. So um, yeah, I mean, they weren't $50,000 though. So
Yeah, I mean, obviously you're coming off another win on this second stint in the UFC. I know I was watching your post fight interview after the fights last time, and you were talking about wanting to like backpack through Europe a little bit, go on that France card, and take on Taylor Lapilus. Has there been any discussions from the UFC to try to get you on that card, or if not, is there any discussions on any other card?
Yeah, I mean, I reached out to my management, Sucker Punch Entertainment, and was like, hey, this is what I said in this interview. See if it's an actual, possibility. Um, and one of the things I was a little bit hesitant about when I made that call out was I looked just like a day or two before at Tapology or whatever at what the card looked like, and it already had 11 fights. And so I was like, dang,
Yeah.
that card's pretty packed already. Now sometimes they could add a 12th fight, um, but that kind of made me a little bit hesitant on whether or not I had a shot at getting it. But so I don't think it's gonna. I mean, as far as I've been told so far, it looks like that card's full. But I figured I'd shoot my shot. Get a free trip to Europe out of it, and just get to have a new experience. I've fought in Vegas plenty of times at this point in my career, so I'm ready for to get on the road. I like traveling around to different places and experiencing different places. And to me, that's always been one of the things about fighting I enjoyed, was just the opportunities to travel. And uh, I love to travel and see new places. So I thought I'd take my shot, but whatever lines up, they've got quite a few shows coming up here in the last quarter of the year. And I don't know. I think they're moving away from the Apex. They've got a bunch of fight nights with
Yeah.
to be determined locations. So I don't know if they're going to be hitting the. Hopefully, they're going to be hitting the road a lot more, going to different cities throughout the country and the world. And so yeah, we'll kind of see what the plans are. But I'm hoping to something in like September, October, November. At least get that one more fight this year and try to end the year on a 2-fight win streak.
And is there any like location that you have been to and have fought in? Because obviously you're an American fighter. Most of your fights are going to be in the United States. What would be maybe like the number one or maybe like top three places you have visited for a fight or just a visit in general?
Yeah, I got to fight in Brazil, way down in southern Brazil, Porto Alegre, which is like a 16-hour flight from California, and that was years ago. Frank Mir and Bigfoot Silva headlined that card, and so that was a cool one just to go and experience Brazil a little bit. Um, and I've got to fight on the East Coast several times in Florida and South Carolina, and just wherever. I fought in Texas. I fought in Kansas City. Um, it doesn't really matter to me where. I just like traveling and experiencing places I've never been, seeing how people live in different parts of the country and the world. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm not like, even when it comes to like uh, cards like the Paris card, like my ideal like vision in my mind of like backpacking through Europe is not to necessarily hit the big cities, but to like have an authentic experience and like be immersed in the culture of wherever I'm at. And so sometimes that doesn't happen as much in a touristy area. You want to go to like, a small city
Yeah.
in France or a small city in England to get that kind of experience. So I don't really care where they send me. I just like, having new experiences.
And so you're on a win right now, coming off the Brian Kelleher fight. Is there one fight left on your contract, and is there any like added pressure? Because I mean, the last performance was obviously really, really good. Round one submission. You haven't got finished any of the fights in this second stint in the UFC. Do you think you just need to get the win in this second fight here, or do you think you need to go out there and get another finish, kind of like the Brian Kelleher win?
I mean, you always shoot for a finish, but I think winning's still the priority, try to build a little win streak so I can get an opportunity get a number next to my name and bigger fights. So, um, yeah, we shoot. Obviously our number one priority is winning, but I think my style in general tends to be exciting. So I don't necessarily have to
Yeah.
like just be you and be aggressive, be a forward pressure volume fighter, and it'll be exciting regardless. So, um, yeah, I mean, winning's still the priority, and try to build on this win and build some momentum. I don't have a ton of time left in the sport, so trying to capitalize on these last couple of years I got in this last stint in the organization, and make a little run toward big fights and big money.
And you were talking about obviously yourself being an exciting fighter without even kind of having to try. You're just naturally pretty exciting in this bantamweight division. But I wanted to ask because a lot of people like to say there's a debate between maybe bantamweight and maybe the lightweight division is more the more stacked weight classes and the more exciting weight classes in the UFC. Would you say that bantamweight is the best division in terms of both excitement and in terms of how many good fighters there just are in the weight class?
Yeah, I think it's definitely one of the more exciting you know, divisions in the UFC. If you look at the lineup and even like toward the bottom of the rankings, the top 15 the UFC puts out, it's just got killers, guys coming
Yeah.
up. And then there's guys outside the top 15 who are coming up, young guys who have a lot of hype behind them. And I think you make a good point. Lightweight is pretty stacked as well. I mean, what are guys like Jalen Turner? They're like on the lower end of the spectrum there, right? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
Gamrot. What's Gamrot like 8 or something like that? Like I think some of the problem though is that you get some of these older guys. Like honestly, like it kind of is a little bit upsetting that Dominic Cruz is still in the rankings in my division
Yeah.
because it's like he hasn't fought in multiple years. He hasn't won in even more years. And I don't see any articles coming out that's saying he's going to be fighting anytime soon or that he's planning on it. So it's like he just keeps taking up a spot, and I don't really understand why. Um, and I think you got to defend your spot, or at some point you got to leave. I mean, even if you are a legend, like, and you've done it all in the sport, like he has, um, because those rankings do matter not only for your perspective moving up the ranks and trying to fight for a title, but they could matter to in a lot of different ways for fighters. So somebody's missing out on a spot. I'm not saying it's me, but somebody that might have a number next to their name doesn't, and that kind of stuff kind of is a little bit frustrating, you know. Lightweight's even
Yeah.
worse because you got so many guys at lightweight that I mean they've had a little like between Charles Oliveira and Dustin Poirier, and they have this little like circle that just keeps going round and
Yeah.
round, and at the same time those guys keep beating those up and comers like Gaethje beat Fazeev. What's that guy's name? That little buff dude, Fazeev.
Yeah. Rafael Fiziev.
Yeah, yeah. Like just I mean, as long as they're winning fights still, I guess, right?
Yeah. And I mean, you kind of spoke about Dominic Cruz there a little bit. You kind of said defend your spot or leave. So, I mean, if you are able to get your wish, you're able to fight one more time in 2024, get the win, get another contract. Is Dominic Cruz a name that would really interest you for a fight beginning of 2025?
Yeah, I think if he was in a position where uh he was trying to come back and fight, I don't even know if that's his plan, but if he was, like obviously there'd be a long line of guys who want that fight. He's one of the best bantamweight fighters ever. I've actually trained with him before. I spent some time down in San Diego, Chula Vista, training with him back in the day, and I learned a lot from him. And I've always kind of held him to high esteem. But yeah, just whether it's me or somebody, it's like trying to crack those rankings. He's got to defend his spot at some point. So yeah, obviously I would love that fight. But Dominic, man, he has his footwork is so unique to him and his style, and
Yeah.
hard to mimic that in the gym or find training partners that could. So it's one of those like you could try, but you're gonna get in there and you're gonna find out pretty quick what he's all about. So he's a tough guy, man, and he hits harder than for a guy that doesn't have a lot of knockouts. I certainly remember sparring with him, and I was like, remember having a thought like, man, this guy hits way harder than I thought he would. Like he hit pretty hard. So he likes to crack too. So, but yeah, I would love that fight, man. That'd be the kind of fight anybody in the UFC would love to have, just because he's one of the best bantamweights to ever do it.
Yeah, I mean Dominic Cruz, he doesn't strike you as like a powerful puncher because he doesn't have many knockouts, but a lot of his punches are kind of on the back foot, so he's not able to generate as big of a pop in his shot. But the shots that do hit you, you have no idea they're hitting you because he is moving so well, and they're just coming out of nowhere because of his movement and his shot placement and things like that. So any fight with you and Dominic Cruz would be definitely a fun one for sure. Is there anybody else like? Because I know. There's a lot of legends in the bantamweight division. You got Aldo, you got Dominic Cruz, and a few of the ones that are kind of outside of the rankings now. Is there one name that would like really interest you before it's all said and done? You'd love to go in there and scrap with.
Um, hmm, that's a good question. I'm trying to think of the guys that are left. Um, you know, I mean, he's not in my weight class. He's a weight class above me, but Cub Swanson. We're both
Yeah,
California guys, and kind of came up. I've been fighting since 2008, so just did a lot of regional shows around him. And his brother was a fighter too, and I was on a few fight cards with his brother, so he was always around. And I saw him in Vegas when he was there just a couple weeks ago for his fight with Andre Feely, and that's a guy I always thought like I remember coming up in the sport always, and I always thought like someday I'm gonna cross paths with this guy. Um, so yeah, it'd be cool to fight Cub before it's all said and done. I know he's at 145s, but uh, I could fight at 145s too. So that'd be one that would be definitely interest me.
and it is kind of one of those fights where you could technically do like a catchweight to 140 because I know Cub. I think it might have been like a year or two ago. He was actually fighting in the bantamweight division. Had a top 15 fight with Jonathan Martinez, I believe. I think it was like a year or two ago. So he's expressed interest in fighting in bantamweight, but he has obviously moved back up since then. But either way, catchweight 145, 135. I definitely agree. It would be a really fun fight. But I want to kind of talk about the Ultimate Fighter because I know a lot of people don't know how that kind of arises for some people. I mean, some people think, oh, the UFC is just going to call you and say, hey, you want to fight on Tough this year? Can you kind of explain the process from getting that call traveling to Vegas and actually getting in the house? What was the process between that first call and finally fighting inside of the house?
Yeah, I mean, I think every season's a little different. I remember years ago traveling to Vegas for a tryout. There were like 300 fighters that like converged into Vegas, all bantamweights, trying to get on the show back then. Um, this time, being a show of prospects and veterans, at least on the veteran side, I don't know how they pick the prospects, but on the veteran side, I got a direct message on my Instagram from the UFC about it, and or from someone from the UFC about it, and that's what kind of started it. And it was a whirlwind of emotions and kind of trials and tribulations before we actually started filming. Um, for everything from they want to do like the producers want to interview the various
Yeah,
possible contestants, and then you get through that. And I was originally told, oh, you're not going to be on the show, and I was pretty burnt about that. I was like thinking in my head, like, how many American bantamweights have been as active as I have been outside the promotion? I was just kind of pissed about it, but and then I got another call a few days later that never mind, you're going to be on the show. And then we show up to Vegas and we have to stay in a hotel, locked in a hotel room for 2 weeks in this case. Um, and they were sending guys home because they had brought out more contestants than were going to actually be on the show. So they're doing medicals throughout the week, and they're doing different interviews with production teams, and they're making cuts. So very nerve wracking, and a kind of an
yeah.
emotional roller coaster. And that's all before the show actually even starts filming. So um, we didn't know until like the day before the filming started who exactly was going to make the final cut, and yeah, it was a whirlwind of emotion for sure. But once the actual show started, it was almost a sigh of relief. Like at least my destiny is in my hands. Whereas when you're sitting in a hotel room waiting for producers of some reality company to make a decision on who's going to be on a show, your destiny's not in your hands. So it's a little.
Yeah.
Once it was in my hands, I was a little bit actually at ease, even though now it's time to get in fist fights.
Yeah. I mean, you got to be at least happy with making the risk because it's not guaranteed. Of course, like you said, it wasn't 100% chance when you did travel to Las Vegas that you were gonna get on the show, but the risk definitely proved to be a good one because he got in the finale, had probably one of the best fights of the year with Brad Katona in the finale, and I wanted to kind of switch topics just a little bit here and ask kind of I'm gonna ask a few different type of people in your life and how you would kind of want them to think about you as a person and as a fighter. So I'll start with how do you want your fight fans to think of you as a person as well as a fighter?
I think as a person, a good person who treats people well. I was raised by my father who taught me always, you treat the janitor the same way you treat the CEO of the company, and that's kind of always been my approach to things. Is whether you can get something out of somebody or not, or there's some like benefit, personal benefit or not, like you treat people well with respect. So I would hope that somehow shows off, shows some people that watch me fight. But as a fighter, just exciting. I want people to want to tune in to watch me fight. I mean, that's the whole. We're not in like a point kickboxing tournament where that nobody except the people in the gymnasium are watching. Like we're here to entertain people, and it's our job to make people want to watch us. And so that's always something when you develop your style and your strategies for fights. Like that's always something I think about is I want people to want to tune in, and even if they didn't know who I was before the card started, I want them to go home talking about my fight. I want my fight to be on they're in their discussions at the bar afterwards, so I think that's the legacy I'm trying to create.
And kind of the same question. It might be the same answer as well, but how would you want maybe your family, your friends, your kids as well to view you as a person and as well as a fighter?
I mean, my those are the people that know me best, so they already know who I am. But
Yeah.
for me, like my mentality is really about teaching my children and showing my children, by leading by example and showing them that if you have a passion for something and you work hard at it, that you'll reap rewards, from it, and taking risk and following your dreams. And but with that comes the expectation that you've got to outwork everyone around you if you want to be successful at it. So though that's my daily like reminder to myself. That's what gets me out of bed every morning. Is staring at
Yeah.
these kids and trying to teach that lesson. So they know that because I see it every day. They don't really care how they view me as a fighter. They just want me to be healthy, and
Yeah.
their priorities as far as watching me fight are very different than your average fan, I'd assume.
Yeah. But yeah, thank you for taking the time out of your day, Cody. I know you got a great rest of the year planned. You got your family. You have, I think maybe you're going to be keeping on with the teaching at the schools, and then possibly one more fight by the end of the year. But if you have anything you want to shout out, anyone you want to thank, the floor is yours, Cody.
Nah, man, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Yeah, hoping to get one more this year. So finish the year strong, and then go into next year, uh, with the win streak, and hopefully some big fights on the horizon. So keep a lookout. I
Yep.
appreciate it.
All right. Thanks for taking the time, Cody. Have a great rest of your day.
Take care, man.